Welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 61. I'm that other dude, Andrew, and I need to shave, obviously. But aside from that, I'm just noticing myself in my window. I'm joined by Heather, uh,
Hello.
who lends her name and so much more to the program. And today we're going to be discussing three bands who you selected. Um, they are Kurse with a K. I'm going to pronounce the second band Song. Is that it? Is it Sang?
Well, I looked it up and I think it's Sangue, but
Okay, it's Sangue.
yeah, because Italian.
And they're from Italy. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. And then
so but I don't know. I don't know.
yeah,
I hope
who
that's
knows?
right. I
I,
don't know.
I I think because Curse is from Montreal, I got confused thinking that they were both. I forgot that they were from Italy. Um,
Yeah.
and then the last group, Dunwich Dreams, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So
Yeah, which I'm going to be in their neck of the woods here pretty soon.
oh, yeah, when you go out west.
Yeah.
Um, so Curse, they had three albums that I selected tracks from. The first is called Tales of the Wizard, which the album looked from. I think I had seen the album before on YouTube because I remember thinking it looks like a deer in the forest, but it's like a some sort of creature with like multiple horns. It's certainly not a deer.
Yeah.
I remember being captivated by that, thinking, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Um,
Yeah.
so I was not familiar with the music, but I recognized the album from a previous YouTube spelunking trip where it had been loaded in the algorithm. But
Yeah.
anyway, off of Tales of the Wizard, the first track we had was called Mythos.
Yeah, and this curse is from Canada, but there is another curse with the same spelling with a K from Philadelphia. Well, and I think they're more I think they do more death metal, but this is the curse that's from Canada. And Tales of the Wizard was an EP that came out in 2017. Um, I thought this song I wrote bass. There's lots of bass, lots of distortion. This is stoner rock with a hard edge. The song is heavy on the bass and drums. It lightens up for a bit and has a psychedelic feel with a guitar interlude that feels very nice before it gets super heavy, fuzzed out, and more distortion.
Yeah, I wrote that I thought this was definitely a soundtrack song for like a heist scene in a movie where the gang of thieves is about to break into the bank, and you just see them like putting their masks on and readying their weapons. Um, yeah, cool bass intro into a dynamite stoner jam, and then it becomes psychedelic, and it feels like you're floating in space. And then it's like an up tempo blast off. You're not floating in space now; you're rocketing through space. And I remember thinking, wow, this is like a symphony in multiple parts. There are just so many elements to the song. And every time I felt like I had my finger on the pulse, it switched to something else. But a great jam. I was rocking out. So and then the next track was Four Princes.
Yeah, this song starts out with psychedelic guitar and reverb. It has that chilled out effect and then gradually gets heavier with more of the distortion. I like this song the most on the EP. I think it's a little on the rough side, but there's enough flashes of brilliance that made me want to follow them. I've been following them for a while. Made me want to follow them and check out their releases. And believe me, I'm glad that I did because the next two are pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, so because I'm a child of the 90s, when I read Four Princes, the first thing I thought of was the song Two Princes by why am I suddenly blanking on their name? The Spin Doctors. Do you remember the Spin Doctors? They
Oh yeah,
their hit song was Two Princes.
yeah.
So I was thinking, oh, well, this is Four Princes, and the way math works, I know that four is clearly bigger than two. So this is probably going to be a better song um, if you're just analyzing it through math. But yeah, I liked it was a melodic, subtle, psychedelic opening. Try saying that four times fast. Um, and then the distortion kicks in, but it maintains that psychedelic sensibility that I really liked. Like it doesn't get oppressively distorted. Um, but then it sort of jams out with these stoner vibes. And again, it was like I've realized that this band is very difficult to pinpoint. Like they're not a cookie cutter band. You're not going to be able to say, "Oh, well, this is what they do. They do X," because they're always each song is layered. There's a lot of textures. Um, it's all great metal, um, and some of it's progressive, some of it's stoner. There's a little bit of doom in there, but it's just good music. And I will probably start following them as well.
Cool.
So all right, we only did two tracks off of Tales of the Wizard. The next one is Prophecies, Episode 1, The Awakening. And the first track was called Twin Suns.
Yes, and this was released in 2020. I got really excited when I heard this because of the doom riffs, that slow tempo, and the vocals have that far out floating effect. There's also the familiar fuzz and distortion. They added additional elements to their music, giving it a bigger, heavier sound, and it still keeps with those psychedelic elements too.
Yeah, I said that Twin Suns was like a song on the soundtrack for a dream slash nightmare scenario where it's like the boat trip in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that Charlie and Grandpa Joe are on, where it's like this psychedelic stuff, um, and then they both admit that it's frightening, but they're not concerned about their safety because they're having fun. And I was like, that's the perfect analogy for this song. It's like it'll vacillate back and forth between like what seems like a nightmare or what seems like a dream in terms of the song construction and how dissonant it gets. But at no point do you ever want to turn the song off. You're just like, I'm going to keep listening to this, and it's awesome, even though like it's pushing the edge of the envelope with how the territory it's going into. It reminded it, and because I haven't done one of these in a long time, I'm going to go on a quick tangent. My buddy Chris Ross, when we were in middle school, um, one time he called a situation like this. He referred to it as a bug out. Like if you're, we were walking past a group of other teenagers in Central Park who told us to mind our business, and it was like frightening because you never want kids you don't know telling you to mind your business, but neither of us ever felt like we were in danger. It was like, so he was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's called a bug out when you're like ruffled a little bit, but you know you're okay." So I feel like this song is a bug out. So if you want to experience a bug out, listen to Twin Suns at 11, both the volume and the time. Um, thank you for letting me uh, wax philosophical about that.
Yes.
But okay, so cool. So after Twin Suns, we have Prophecy.
Yeah, I really like the vocals in this song. I got a better sense of his voice and, his range of singing styles. The song has some bluesy components that I absolutely loved. The song keeps building with more details added, and then here comes the doom to show us out. I didn't want it to end. It definitely left me wanting more.
Yeah, this one was an interesting the way they construct songs I found to be really interesting. This one was like a cool subtle intro into a stoner jam that kept building upon itself and growing exponentially. It was just getting more and more powerful. Um, which I really it was sort of like a reverse waterfall, if you will, if that's even possible. Um, it was just something that started somewhat small and got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe just a regular waterfall. Why does it have to be reverse? But either way, I liked how it sounded enough like the previous album, but it was also going in a bit of a different direction. Um, because that's always cool to be able to do to track the progress that bands are making. Um, but yeah, no. So far, I've enjoyed both Tales of the Wizard and Prophecies Episode One: The Awakening, which brings us to the next album, Prophecies Episode Two: The Apprehension.
Yes.
And the first track that we listened to off this one is probably one of my favorites. It's "Witches of the Bong."
Yeah, and they released this in 2022. I really like how they keep exploring new territory and keeping us on our toes with fresh sounds. They're still doom and the fuzz with serious heaviness, but I also felt a lighter playfulness. They are letting loose, like stretching out, and just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, this I felt like this was certainly the most up tempo song. This sounded like an anthem. I felt like I could picture, you know, the 1,000 people in the crowd, like all pumping their fists, singing along to this song as like the anthem of a generation. And then, um, yeah, just like I felt like this is a song you blast out of the car radio while driving 100 miles an hour down the highway, just with the roof down and whatnot. Um, but yeah, this it was again, like you had mentioned, it was cool how they're shifting just a little bit in a different direction. Like this one sounded like an anthem, even though it incorporated some of the previous elements, like the doom and stoner and psychedelic. But this one, I was like, oh, okay, this is yet another aspect of their music.
Yeah.
Um, cool. And then next up was The Well.
And I love how it starts out atmospheric and spacey. I like how the song stays kind of light while the first two verses of the song are sung. And then the song gets really heavy, and the last two lines of the song are repeated. I am reborn. I'll see the sun again. I am reborn. This is my end.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't write much for the. I just said more of a psychedelic jam for most of it, and then it becomes a stoner jam. Again, they're really good at segueing from certain elements, seamlessly. And yeah, no, I dig it. I dig it. I don't think there's a. I mean, I think you said everything that needed to be said. So the last track off the album is "Self Terminate."
Yeah, I like the intensity of this song. One thing I noticed too was on the album covers, while they're all different from each other, they each have a wizard on them. So that's kind of the common theme throughout. Um, all three of their albums are Name Your Price on Bandcamp. I really like what this band is doing. I hope they put out a full length album at some point. This song just puts a stamp on what they can do.
Yeah, this was interesting because it was a slower tempo song, so I got the side head nod going, and it had an industrial feel to it, even though it wasn't industrial metal by any stretch. But that's the impression I got. And then the tempo kicks in, and it becomes another highway racing jam, very much similar to Witches of the Bong. So it was interesting to see sort of the direction that they took this album in was a little bit different from the previous one, which was a little bit different from the previous one, but you could tell it was the same band the whole way through. And like
Yeah.
you, I'm excited to see what's next for Kurse with a K, um, from Montreal, not from Philly. But all right, so next up we have either Sang or Dunwich Dreams or Sangue or Song. I'm not.
Sangue, let's do that.
What? Yeah, one right now. Members of that band are pinching the bridge of their nose, going, "Oh
Yeah,
my god!"
I apologize.
Yes, I
I
apologize for me too.
apologize. Yeah, yeah. Language is not my strong suit, unfortunately. But you know, it's funny when you say sang, it reminds me there was this show where it was the people from West Virginia and they were hunting ginseng and they would like dig up ginseng and then take it in and get money for it. And they called it sang. They're gonna hunt for some sang.
Gotcha.
That kind of when you said that, that kind of reminded me of that.
All right, so when we listen to Sang, not hunting for it, but when we listen to it, I listen to Paraloop, and you listen to a different album,
They're
right? Or do
self-titled. It's a self-titled,
okay.
self-titled. Yeah.
All right. So, what did you think of this band?
Oh gosh. And this one, the one I listened to, they released it in 2019. And this is a record that I have. I own this record. One side is Sangway and the other side is Magma Camera, which we've discussed. We discussed them in a previous episode. And I knew when we talked about them that eventually I would want to get around to this. Um, this album is it's heavy psych doom, and it also has elements of grunge and noise rock. There's some really heavy guitar riffs with lots of fuzz and distortion. What I like about this music too is that there's an edginess to it. Maybe there's that something that's below the surface. You want to know more. You just want to know more. I really like how the album cover is it's just black and red, and it's simple, but it really stands out. And the record that I have is black and red too. It's like black on the inside with red on it. It's actually a really nice looking album. Um, I, I, this is how, like, when they did the split, because one side is this and then the other side is Magna Camera, so it's like a split, and that's how I got introduced to them, and I think they're great. I really like them a lot.
This was another. So I listened to Paraloop, um, and from now on I'm going to call them Sangway also. Um, but and this was another band that I had a real difficulty nailing down what genre it was. Um, some of it sounded doom, some of it was fast, some of it was slow, some of it was industrial. Every time I thought I had them pegged, it would change up a little bit. Um, there was a fan on Bandcamp named Saffron Robe who wrote highly original with a nice balance of light and heavy touches, which I thought it's going to be really difficult to summarize this band in one sentence, but that does a pretty good job. My favorite track on the album is Demon's Murder, which again was mostly of a doom formula. But yeah, I will have to go back and listen to their self-titled album because they're doing some great things there.
Yeah,
Um,
really interesting. Yeah,
definitely, both with them and Kurse. Um,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
finally, we have Dunwich Dreams,
yeah.
and this is an album that's going to be released soon called Rise of the Seventh Son. What
Yeah,
were
it's going to
your
be released on March 10th.
Okay, so next month.
Yeah, March 10th. And this I did a little bit different. I did this kind of stream of consciousness. When I listened to the record, I just kind of wrote down whatever came into my mind. So I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's usually what I do. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
basically you're fine.
Okay, so here we go. Heavy industrial, and they also use a lot of lighter electronics and electronic sounds throughout their music. I like how they reference the Man in Black and Gunslinger from the Stephen King novels. There's also metal, double bass drums, thrashy guitar, growly vocals, kind of like death metal. Um, I like the lightness of the synthesizers. It juxtaposes nice with the heavier vocals. I like the mixture of different styles and sounds. It makes for a very interesting sound that's pretty unique. I can't really think of any other music that sounds like this. So I think they're kind of blazing their own trail and their own path.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting on Bandcamp. One of the tags is the soundtrack of your nightmares, which I thought does a pretty good job presenting what they're going for. Um, and Yeah, the way I thought of it was it would be like if the bands Tangerine Dream and Ministry got together and formed a side project. It would be very similar to Dunwich Dreams. There's a lot of industrial metal influence, but there's also the lightness, like you mentioned, with synthesizers. So I feel like that would be if you are unfamiliar with their work and you need something abstract, Tangerine Dream and Ministry. Um, Although the track "Violent Sticky Sex" reminded me of Nine Inch Nails a little bit, so there's certainly that element too. But any of those, if you're a fan of any of those bands, you'll find something within this that you'll enjoy. Um, and it is a little on the harder side, so don't think of this as going to be like synth pop when you go in. Um, my particular favorite track was called "Vengeance's Folly." Um, just in case we're keeping score. But yeah, this is we've discussed Dunwich Dreams previously. Definitely worth checking them out, and I will absolutely go back and check out the rest of Sangue's work. And when Kurse puts out more records. So
Yeah.
well done with your recommendations, Heather, as always.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
So, for those of you who are interested, we are going to be taking a bit of a hiatus. Don't be worried. We're not going anywhere. We will be back in a couple of weeks with more episodes, but just the next couple of weeks, we're going to be on a brief hiatus. So,
Yeah, so I'm going to be traveling.
there's going to be some travel
There's
times
going to
and
be some traveling in opposite directions. I'm going south and going north and
yes.
but we're going to
Like,
come back. We're going to come back and um do some more of this.
yes, rest assured, Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. It's like when Tenacious D says you couldn't split up Kato and Nash, you couldn't split up Tango and Cash. You can't you can't split up Heather and that other dude.
And that other dude. That's right.
Triple
That's
HG will be blazing into the future with more
yeah.
episodes. So
Yeah.
be well until then, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.